Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Fulohoyani. Marisella TEFFO never ceases to amaze me. I don't know what the man's agenda is, but Marisella, every time he surfaces anywhere, he shoots himself in the foot. He is destroying the little credibility that he has left. And he is all over the place, craving publicity, and all for the wrong reasons, and making himself the laughingstock of so many people, including Judge Ratha Mokgatleng and prosecutor George Balui in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Last week, TEFFO said it again. He popped out of nowhere in the Pretoria Magistrate Court in the Khumalo matter, where Khumalo is trying to, General Khumalo, the suspended head of intelligence, is trying to get his bail conditions released. TEFFO surfaced there, conferred with the prosecutor that he would like to address the court and that he would like to be a friend of the court. And that was a futile exercise and was simply dismissed. But let us get into what it is that TEFFO wanted to be. What is a friend of the court? A friend of the court is somebody with some specialized skills. Usually a friend of the court will make an application to the court to be such friend of the court. And even attorneys and advocates have in many instances applied to be friends of the court to assist the court. The objective of being a friend of the court is not to take sides, but is to give and throw light on some aspects of the case either way. In other words, the friend of the court is not committed to either side. His is to make clarifications of a legal nature and how he sees things, so that going forward the court can then also make reference to his observations, so that in coming to a decision, the court will then do so with an informed decision and with the benefit of having had the side of somebody knowledgeable about the issue, who has also made an impact into the proceedings. So TEFFO popped up at the Magistrate Court in Pretoria and did not make that application. No sooner had he been given that opportunity, TEFFO simply went on to say that, these people, these bail applicants, or these people who are seeking to have their bail, conditions reviewed or amended, were dangerous people, and that they also had a hand in his arrest, and that even when he was in jail, they were monitoring him, and so on and so forth. Damning allegations which were for the purposes of that particular application to be a friend of the court irrelevant. You see, already he stands up not as a friend of the court. The objective was for him to be a friend of the court. But the first thing that he utters shows he's not a friend of the court, because he immediately takes sides and starts, throwing all sorts of allegations at General Dumisani Khumalo, calling him dangerous and all the other stuff that he threw at the general. No sooner had Mshololo had this, Mshololo was just sitting next to him. Mshololo then rose to object that he was improperly before court and that he could not be allowed to be making the statements that he was making, casting all those negative aspersions on her client, General Kumar. So it was then that TEFFO, was sort of swept aside. But TEFFO's theatrics have attracted many people. It was in a rare moment. It was that rare moment when I saw Judge Ratamukhatin laugh, together with even, asked Advocate Baloi to say, to engage him in the laughter, rather, let me put it that way, that he was involved in. Just take a listen to this.
I see Mr. Baloi is also laughing. A friend of the court, have you ever heard of this? Because, and maybe when we were at varsity, it's a judge who appoints a friend of the court. Let's say I'm handling a matter which involves a subject which I'm not au fait with. Let's say gold. Let's say gold, for instance. There are certain categories of gold, and somebody is accused of having traded them and overpriced them, etc., etc., etc. I can afford a friend of the court who is an engineer, who understands the gold quality, what this gold is, because a judge would not know that. And then somebody is an economist, he can come and quantify that gold. So you appoint guys like those. It's like assessors. We don't just call an assessor. We call an assessor because he's got specialized skill. He's an accountant, for instance, or he's a gynecologist. Somebody's being charged with inducing an abortion, for instance. And then it involves medicinal terms and whatever. So you appoint a guy like that, who becomes a friend of the court to assist the court, because the court doesn't have the expertise. But it's the first time I hear that you can appoint yourself as a friend of the court, which consists of the doctor here and yourself. Okay, that's comic relief anyway. So what do we do today?
So there's just Ratamukhatin, in that rare jovial mood. And I think Judge Ratamukhatin also makes a mistake here because, friends of the court are not just court appointed. In fact, more often than not, friends of the court apply to the court to be afforded that kind of status. So insofar as, they are court appointed, I don't agree with him on that score. So that is how TEFFO, that is what TEFFO is, making himself a laughing stock of everybody. And I really hope for TEFFO that, he can stop all these theatrics, because I fear that one of these days, he's going to find himself arrested or something. Because, the man does not think twice before he takes any action. He seems to act impulsively. And impulsive actions can be very dangerous. He's an impulsive sort of person, acts on the whim of the moment. An idea comes into his head, therefore probably just goes ahead with it. So that was the unfortunate incident that we saw in the Pretoria Magistrate Court. Again, putting TEFFO, or thrusting TEFFO into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. But perhaps the man, cannot do with the publicity that the Senzo Meiwa trial gave him. And he's desperately, seeking that sort of attention. But I think it is not doing him any good. And the sooner he stops, the better. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the views, subscriptions, and likes that I'm seeing. And have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday afternoon rather, and evening. Thank you.